Yeah. I think those kind of discussions are really good because you have to apply the Dharma to yourself, and you have to say things out loud about your own practice. Yeah? And by doing that, you really communicate with other Dharma practitioners on a level that you might not otherwise communicate, and that sets the basis for making really good Dharma friends. Yeah, because it can easily happen, as it does with the rest of our lives, that we try and impress people and look good. But when we're practicing the Dharma, we have to learn how to be really transparent and honest with ourselves, and, be fearless and not worried about, saying, if we've done something that isn't so great, acknowledge it, purify it, get over it, instead of cover it up, cover it up, cover it up, then lie to cover it up, then cover up the lies, then cover up the cover up, and and then you get even Richard Nixon confused. Yeah, so it's easier just own it, deal with it, life goes on. Yeah. Okay, so there's some questions here. The Lamrim notes that after birth we progress to death without it being possible to add time to our lives. How does this align with purification of negative karma or long life practices such as White Tara? Do the latter lengthen life? I don't know if does it really say like that you can't add any time to your lives? I'd like to see exactly what it says. When you're born, you may be born with a certain karmic lifespan, yeah, but then that isn't fixed rigidly. If you do White Tara practice or whatever, maybe it's longer. And if you were going to have what's called an untimely death, like an accident, if you do purification, then maybe that doesn't happen. Okay, so none of these things are cast in concrete. Yeah, they all can change. Okay, then you mentioned fortune telling, just out of curiosity. What is the general Buddhist view on the I Ching? I have no idea. Do you? Do you? The I Ching. Huh? Yeah, it's a Taoist text. But it's Chinese, and people in the West think that anything that's Chinese must be Buddhist. I don't know. I mean, my teachers have never talked about it, and we just asked our third Singaporean, do you know anything about this? No? Okay, so that's it. Nobody knows. Okay. Huh? Oh, ask Siri, yes. No, ask AI and you'll get a really wild answer. Yeah. I mean, why? Every time you use AI, it says, and AI may give wrong answers. So why do you use it to start with? Yeah, if you're going to get an answer and you're not sure if it's correct or incorrect. Okay. What can I practice to develop antipathy for cyclic existence? When you practice in the Lamrim, what they call the middle scope, the four truths, true dukkha, true cause of dukkha, true cessation of dukkha, true path to the cessation. And when you study true dukkha, which is often translated as suffering, but that's a horrible, misleading translation. when you meditate on that, the Lamrim lists different kinds of disadvantageous situations that if we look, are quite evident in our own life, like birth, aging, sickness, and death. Yeah? Are those your favorite things? Yeah, that you want to do again and again and again and again and again and even some more? Yeah. So, all these, when it lists them, take each one out and really think of it in terms of your own life experience. And this produces, a feeling of yuck, I don't want to continue doing this. Mm-hmm. And that, when we can have even some sense of that, it really changes our mind, because then all the things of this life that we fret so much about, that we worry about, that we get so upset about, when we think of that we're caught in cyclic existence by the power of our own afflictions and karma, then these little things don't seem so important, and we don't get wigged out about them. Yeah. So very, very helpful for kind of calming the mind and helping us set priorities in our life. Okay, so that middle section of the Lamrim is quite important. Also, thinking about karma, and thinking about the afflictions. This comes in when we think about the second of the four truths, the true cause of dukkha, when we really go through the different afflictions and contemplate them and see how they are active in our own lives and think of the results of them, then it's like, I need to do something about this. And when you think of the karma that we have created this life, and who knows what in the world we did in previous lives, and that those karmic seeds are on our mind, and when the external or internal situation is in a certain way, then it acts to fertilize those seeds, and they grow into our experiences. Yeah, and so all these karmic seeds are on our mind stream. Again, we don't have a nice computer file with all of them listed, categorized, with take the pink pill to eliminate this one, and the green pill to eliminate that one, because that's not the way we deal with all this karma. Okay, so it's quite helpful to think about that. Yeah, and then it takes, like I said, it takes all the worry and stress out of this life. Yeah, especially, when you're concerned with, what's my reputation, and do the people at work appreciate me enough, and how am I going to pay for, I just got 4 new cars, and how am I going to pay for them? And plus I registered to go to Mars with Elon, and I got to pay for that. And, how am I going to get all the money to do this? And you stress and you worry at a certain point, when your Dharma practice is, and you've meditated on these things, it's like, no problem. I've been born on Mars many times before. Yeah, it hasn't done me any good. I'm still here in samsara. I've gotten, 10 new cars, not just 4 before. And, that doesn't do me any good either. So how about if I return all of them and ride the bus and the subway? You kind of, you don't worry so much about how you appear to other people and how other people treat you and all of this, which is a lot of our stress, isn't it? Yeah. I work so hard and they ask me to do more and they don't appreciate what I've done and they pick faults at it and then they give me too much work, so I'm just stressed all the time and not enough breaks, and the tea counter doesn't have the kind of tea I like, and all these things. Yeah, I can see your suffering just by me listing them out now. Yeah, and no coffee. Wow, how do you make it? It's just, you're a cold turkey here at this monastery. Yeah, it's cold turkey. Just ask the turkeys. Okay, so, all of that stuff becomes so important because we're just focused on this life, which when you think of past lives and future lives and, beginningless time, space, this life is, it's as thick as a hair. It just, doesn't last very long. And what we take with us is not our social status, not all the love letters that people write us telling us how wonderful we are or how much we've helped them, not all the bad reports from grade school and our work, none of this stuff. Maybe it's all in your FBI file. I don't know. Yeah, and they spend, the FBI spends, what's his name? Patel, Yeah, that guy what looks like this. Yeah, maybe that's why he looks like that. He spends all day reading these stupidaggios in our FBI file. But, while other people go about creating crimes. Yeah. But, none of that comes with us to the next life, And then we think, oh, but they're going to write an obit about me, and I want my obituary to be really nice. I want to pick out the picture, that they show where I look young and attractive, even though I was 105 when I died. I want a picture from, my youth. By the time that gets published, we're going to be in our next rebirth. And we're not going to remember this life. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Who comes to your funeral? Yeah. Well, do they bring the kind of flowers you like? Yeah, you're dead. Yeah. These things are not important. Yeah. So if they're not important when we die and after we die, why make them into crisis situations right now? Yeah. So you see, they can take as long as they want to finish the Buddha Hall. I'm so relaxed. No, but really, it's much better because all the other stuff doesn't change anything. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Shall we? Let's just do the Refuge and Bodhicitta 3 times, and then we'll have a silent period to generate your own motivation. I won't lead you through it, and then we'll start going through the text again. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create, by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. So generate your motivation. I request a smaller thing. Thank you. Okay. So we are on verse 33. When my imagination rises as veils and possessor spirits, it is the weapon of destructive karma returning on me for accumulating negative karma against deities and their mantras. From now on, I will vanquish all negative conceptions. Okay, so negative conceptions. This is, Lama Yeshe used to call them superstitious thoughts. The Tibetan word is Namtok. Yeah, and Namtok implies all the conception, the rubbish conceptions that go on in our mind, you know, like, oh, that person didn't say good morning to me. Maybe they don't like me. What did I do wrong? Nobody, really treats me right. I don't know. I live here, but nobody likes me. What's going on? And you have a whole train of thought just because somebody didn't say good morning to you and you're sure it's indicative of, nobody in the world liking you. This is all rubbish thought, okay? So Namtok, superstitious thought, projections, yeah. And we have lots of them, lots and lots and lots of them. And some of them we learned when we were kids, or we dreamt up when we were kids. One couple I know was getting divorced. Their young son, he must have been 5 or 6 at the time, and he said, I know why Daddy's not coming home anymore. It's because I'm bad. Yeah. And he got that idea. I don't think, I knew the parents, they wouldn't say that to him. But as kids, you dream up things like that and attribute responsibility to yourself that isn't your responsibility. And then that, you go through your life believing that kind of thing, that I'm bad or whatever it is. Okay? So that's one kind of example. Another kind is what adults actually say to us. You know, if you're not good, you know, the boogeyman's going to come get you. Or if you're not good, God's going to send you to hell. I don't know. Does that make God into the boogeyman? They seem to perform almost the same function. You know, I make these, by the way, I hope my remarks are not disturbing to you, but I make them because most of us grew up with the idea of there being a creator who manages the universe and who's responsible for everything. And we come into Buddhism and we're often holding on to that view at a subconscious level, and it really interferes with our Dharma practice. So I say these things and point out things that don't make sense in an effort to, you know, so that people might see them in themselves and leave these kind of Namtok, superstitious thoughts behind. Yeah. Namtok includes all sorts of wrong views. Yeah. I can't become a Buddha. There's no such thing as Buddha. When you die, that's it. There's nothing that happens after that. You are canceled out. You know, so much stuff like this. And then just the incredible things that we project onto other people and things that we project onto ourselves. It's amazing, you know, and no wonder we're very unhappy, and no wonder we're quite confused, because we're swimming in, you know, tons of wrong conceptions that we don't even notice. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So imagination, or Namtok in Tibetan, refers to misconceptions, preconceptions, false assumptions, alternative facts. Remember that one? And fabricated stories and beliefs that our minds create. Yeah, some of these, such as the 4 distorted conceptions. So these are important Namtok that we really have to spend some time dismantling. Yeah, so these 4 Namtok are quite prevalent in our lives. We see things that are transient by nature and think that they're fixed and permanent. Okay, for example, we're all alive today. We're assuming that we'll all be alive tomorrow. You know, if somebody, you know, dies in their sleep or whatever, we're all shocked. How did that happen? And yet, you know, everything's transient. We don't know when death will be, but we're always surprised when it happens. Yeah. So that kind of thing of thinking that impermanent things that are transient are fixed and predictable and secure. Yeah. And we get ourselves in a lot of trouble, a lot of pain in that way. Yeah, because we develop rigid conceptions of certain people, and then we nourish that conceptions. Have you ever noticed that when somebody does one rude thing towards you, that everything they do thereafter is horrible and neurotic and vengeful and inappropriate? Yeah, they do one thing you don't like, that person is, you know, horrible, 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 horrible. No redeeming qualities. Yeah, that's a little bit extreme, huh? A little bit. Yeah. When somebody says something nice to us, oh, my lasting friend forever and ever and ever and ever, until, Yeah. Do all your relationships last forever? Nobody dies. Nobody changes their mind. People don't go in different directions. Yeah. So just, we concretize everything. And then we freak out when things change and we didn't give it permission to change. Yeah? Have you ever noticed that? I was just walking up by the Buddha Hall. Yeah? And last week we planted rhododendrons, beautiful red rhododendrons. Well, 1 week later, I can't believe it. They're all dried out and dead. That's how did that happen? They're not supposed to. We pay good money for those rhododendrons. Actually, it was an offering by somebody else, but they paid good money. And how could these flowers die in 1 week? Yeah, this is terrible. Don't you agree? What? Hopefully it'll bloom again. But how long does that take? Yeah, I want them to have red, beautiful rhododendron flowers all the time. Yeah, even in the middle of winter, let alone in the summer when it's warm. How could they get all dried out? Yeah, wasn't that hot these last few days? Over and over and over, And like, who did we buy them from anyway? Yeah, you bought them. Did you ask them how long they've been sitting there? Maybe, they were already decaying a week ago. Yeah, do you think they could have been decaying a week ago? Yeah. Oh, that's impossible. They look beautiful. When things look beautiful, they aren't in the process of decaying. Decaying comes sometime later, after another 50 years. Yeah. It's like when you see somebody who's young, can you even imagine what they look like when they're old? Yeah. Or you see anybody who's old and then you see a picture of them when they were young and you go, oh my God, what happened to them? Yeah. They look like a prune now. Yeah, but like looking at your pictures of your parents when they were young, can you believe that they look like what they look like, now? Yeah. So, but things are changing all the time, whether we say it's okay or not. This is their nature, and this gives us problems because we don't accept it. We aren't ready for it. Okay, so that's one of the four big Namtok, thinking impermanent things are permanent. The second one is thinking that things that are foul by nature are pure. Okay, typical example, our body. Yeah. We are in love with our body and we fall in love with other people's bodies. What are bodies? Yeah. How many of you have ever dissected a body? Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what it looks like. Mm-hmm. Why do we get so enamored with our own and others' bodies? Yeah. Are they pure by nature? No, they're pee and poop and earwax and sand, eye sand and sweat and what else, everything else, factories. Aren't they? Aren't they? And you say, oh, that person is so beautiful. Well, take the skin away. Yeah. Have you ever been to that exhibition they have now? that goes around and it'll show you all the different systems. They took it from real bodies, you know, and you just see this whole circulatory system, you know, or the whole digestive system. Yeah, when you know, everybody wants to be sexy, right? Yeah, so what is so sexy, you know? Oh, your small colon is just gorgeous. I just get turned on by your small colon. You know, your esophagus, beyond beautiful. Yeah. And that brain, oh, to touch those golden folds, you know, that are, you know, slimy to perfection. What are we so enamored with? Yeah, when you really think about it, it's like, you know, it's like we're Looney Tunes, aren't we? Yeah. And you look at, you know, all these big gala things, and then they show the people's what they're wearing, or very often what they're not wearing, on the red carpet. And everybody goes, oh, look, you know, I want to look like them. But you still have the same filthy insides. And those people also produce the same junk that our body produces, or the person you're attracted to that their body produces. Okay, so yeah, this is, it's a distortion, isn't it? It's a superstitious conception. Hmm? Some people don't like this. Yeah, teaching that. You know, I was invited to one place and they said, oh, please teach the 4 distortions. Well, when I got to this one, they didn't like it. You know, talking about impermanence was okay because they could just block out death and aging. Yeah, but if you really think about, you know, impermanence, it's like this thing is gonna not look the same in a few years. You know? Yeah, so we can see, you know, by how much resistance we have sometimes to certain teachings, how ingrown some of our conceptions are, and how we really don't want to change. Yeah, so something to think about. The third distorted conception is thinking that things that are dukkha, unsatisfactory by nature, are pleasant and blissful. Okay, so this is what we call happiness in the human realm, or fun in the human realm. Yeah, we think these things are just wonderful, the height of happiness. Yeah, but do they last? Yeah, if any of your previous heights of joy and happiness lasted, you would not be here today. You would still be with that wonderful situation, person, object, whatever it was. Okay, it doesn't last. And not only does it not last, but the thing, you know, because this is thinking that things that are by nature unsatisfactory are happy and blissful. Okay, not only do they not last, but if you continue to be with whatever is giving you happiness, after a while, it's going to change into out and out discomfort and pain. Okay? Yeah, just think, you know, you're hungry, you start to eat. Oh, I'm so glad I get to eat. And then if you keep eating, what happens? Do you get happier and happier? No, you get a stomach ache. Yeah. You fell in love. Oh, this person. I want to be with them forever. Okay, so you're handcuffed to them. Everywhere they go, you go. Everywhere you go, they go. How long do you want to be handcuffed to them? Yeah? Is that going to continue to bring you happiness and bliss? No, sorry to disillusion you, but this is the reality, isn't it? Yeah, whatever. You get the perfect job. How long is it going to be the perfect job? Until the first day you start working. And then after that, it's going to be a pain in the neck. Yeah. So, yeah. So that's the third one. Then the fourth distortion is thinking that things that lack a self, and here self means inherent existence, thinking that things that lack a self have a self. Yeah, so the champion of that one is how we view ourselves, that there's a real me here. Yeah, always has been, always will be, a real me that is in charge. Yeah, are you in charge? Yeah, are you in charge of your body? Oh yes, look, I can do this. Yeah. Can you make your digestive system work properly by willing it? Yeah. Can you make your body more flexible without exercising? No. Yeah. How about controlling your mind when you sit down to meditate? Can you do more than 2 breaths before getting distracted? Yeah. We have this idea of a self that is in control. Yeah. If that self were in control, why does it make so many stupid decisions? Yeah. Do you make stupid decisions? Yeah. Yeah. Like really stupid decisions. Yeah. And you look back on it, you go, what in the world was I thinking? And yet you think that there's a self who's, really there and who's in charge and who's rational and who's looking out for your benefit. Yeah. How often do we self-sabotage? Yeah. This self that's supposed to be looking out for our benefit. Yeah. And we shoot ourselves in the foot doing really dumb things. Yeah. That at the time we think are just, fantastic. Okay. So these are some more examples of Namtok. Yeah. So, what this verse, let's read the verse again. When my imagination arises as veils and possessor spirits. Okay, so in some cultures, when our Namtok, the cultures talk about spirits, and so our Namtok creates spirits. We don't even need to create spirits. We can easily make somebody who wishes us well into an enemy. Yeah, we can easily think that what somebody said to us as a compliment was actually an insult. Can't we? Yeah, you ever done that? Yeah. Have you ever, or put it it might be easier if we flip the roles. Have you ever said something to somebody that was a compliment, and they came back to you later like, what did you really mean when you said that? Yeah, like they took it as an insult. Well, what about us? Maybe we misconstrued too. Okay, so there's this lovely story about Milarepa, when he was in his cave eating nettles. Yeah, nettles are very healthy. We eat them here too. Yeah, you cook them. You can go pick them down there. But yeah, they're very nutritious. Anyway, so he was in his cave, and there were a bunch of spirits that appeared. Yeah? And he's, they were, playing around, being nuisance in the cave, and he said to the spirits, why did you come here to bother me? And the spirit said, why did you invite me? Meaning that it was his mind, his distracted mind, his Namtok mind, that made up spirits. Yeah. So, we make up all sorts of things. Yeah. It's quite interesting how we take, different things in nature and we see them as signs of something. Yeah. Or the Tibetans throw mows. It's a kind of divination thing. Yeah. So somebody occasionally asks me to do a mow, and I say, I do Western mows. Give me a coin and we'll flip it. Yeah? And then people, oh, okay, what is it? Yeah. You can make it whatever you want. Okay. So, so it's our own mind, our own Namtok, that's responsible for all these things. Yeah. And, it's like sometimes when you have a strong fever, you might have hallucinations, or you might have really, dreams. Oh my goodness. Yeah, our dreams are so symbolic of so many things. Yeah, I know people who make life decisions based on their dreams. If you're somebody like His Holiness, yeah, who can assess dreams accurately and knows what's going on, yeah. But I don't know, Sometimes our dreams might give us a little inkling into something that's going on underneath. Sometimes our dreams are nonsense. Yeah. Often before we take empowerments, if it's a 2-day empowerment, the Lama will tell us to watch our dreams that night. Yeah, and everybody comes back the next day. What did you dream? What did you dream? I've never had any kind of exemplary dreams. What did you dream? What did you dream? Everybody's, waiting. And then His Holiness says, well, if you dream that you were flying up towards the sun or touching the moon, that's a sign of having purified a lot of negative karma. Yeah, anybody dream that? Tonight. Yeah. Tonight. Yeah. And then he goes through these different things that are considered auspicious dreams. And then he says at the end, but a dream is just a dream. That's all it is. Yeah, it's not reality. So, yeah. But we can project meaning onto all sorts of things. Yeah, which is maybe one reason why His Holiness really encourages us to think, to use reason and logic to think about things. Yeah, when you watch his teachings, this comes every single time. Yeah, reasoning, logic. Yeah. So then apply it to some of the things that you think. Yeah. I know those contractors are a bunch of lazy bums. Okay, evidence, please. Well, big evidence is they don't prioritize our project. And there's pervasion. Anybody who doesn't prioritize our project must be a lazy bum. Yeah, makes perfect sense. Yeah. That's kind of reason and logic that we use when we say things about people. Yeah. We look at Donnie again. It's such a good example. What did we get to? It was the deranged, leftist, radical lunatic. Yeah. The deranged, radical. I keep getting them in. Leftist lunatic. Okay. Yeah. So what is the qualification for being called a deranged, radical, leftist lunatic? What's the what?
You care about others.
You care about others. You don't agree with his ideas. Yeah. You think that climate change is real. You think, and maybe this is our Namtok, that we're a nation of laws and people who live by laws. Yeah, from Donnie's perspective, you are a deranged, radical, leftist lunatic. Yeah, laws, who cares about laws? Yeah, so where did the point I was making, okay, yeah, was not a political point, but it was how we make up opinions of people based on totally subjective criteria that have no logic or reasoning behind them. Okay, so everybody who disagrees with me must be stupid. Yeah, you make your syllogism. Everybody who doesn't, everybody who doesn't agree with me is stupid because they don't agree with me. Yeah? Is that reasonable? Everything? Yeah. The reason is because everything I think is correct. So somebody who disagrees must be really stupid. And then we project that onto everybody who has a different opinion than we do. Yeah, they must be stupid. They are deranged, radical, rightist lunatic. Yeah. Oh, we flipped it. How can you say that? They're a rightist. Yeah, they write a lot. Okay. But, just the amount of time and energy all this Namtok takes up in our life and the ways it, and the foolish things we do based on it. It's something to be aware of in our lives. Okay, verse 34. When I am lost and wander around like a powerless person. Okay. It is the weapon of destructive karma returning upon me. What did I do? For driving others, such as my guru, from their abodes. From now on, I will expel no one from their home. Whoa, this was written several centuries ago. Yeah, does it remind you of what's happening today? Yeah, what's the karmic result of driving people from their homes, of separating families? Yeah, you wind up lost and wander around like a powerless person. Yeah, so the people you take advantage of, yeah, who are the most vulnerable, when you play out your power issues and expel them from their homes, those are, those are the people that you're going to be like in a future life. Yeah, if we spent time thinking about the karmic results of our actions, and I think we would make different decisions, we would act quite differently. So, and this book was written many years ago too. People are displaced from their homes and countries due to a variety of reasons: natural disasters, wars, terrorism, epidemics, political problems, poverty, environmental disasters, or family conflicts. Yeah, you are homeless and lack the ability to engage in meaningful activity to change your situation. Yeah, maybe you're imprisoned in a foreign country. Yeah, where you don't even know the language, where you don't have legal representation. Maybe you're a little kid and you come home from school and mom is no longer there and nobody knows where she is because ICE picked her up when you were at school. Or maybe the child is at school and ICE goes to the school and takes the child, and then the parents are freaking out that evening because their kid has disappeared. Yeah, boy, this kind of thing, you look at human history, yeah, the number of refugees throughout history, people who have been forced to leave their homes, who have been oppressed. Look at what's going on in Gaza and the people at the level of starvation, just about. Yeah, and they're letting in food, but it's not quite enough when people are bordering on starvation and when there's millions of people to distribute the food to. So all of this kind of thing is mentioned specifically in this verse, yeah, creates karma, and we experience the result of it in future lives. Yeah, so it's very important to be careful about what we rejoice in, okay? So, for example, there are certain states, and I think Washington is still one of them, where there is the death penalty, and there's certainly the federal government has reinstituted the death penalty. If they execute somebody and we think, great, I'm so glad that guy got it, yeah, then we're rejoicing in somebody else being murdered. That creates the karma of killing, even if we aren't the one who executed them. Yeah, we endorsed it, we rejoiced at it, we create that karma, we will experience the result. So we have to be quite careful about what we rejoice at, especially in situations of war. How many times does the thought cross your mind, I hope they would assassinate, fill in the blank. Yeah. Get rid of this or that leader, and then everything will be all right. So thinking these kinds of thoughts, this is, the mental negativity of malicious thought. Yeah. And we may do it on a political level, we may do it on a personal level. Yeah. Oh, I hope that person gets a taste of their own medicine and somebody rejects them with all the harshness that they rejected me with, whatever it is, something like that. Okay, so something to be careful of. Okay, but here it's, when I am lost and wander about like a powerless person. This is what's happening to those people now, isn't it? Yeah. It is a weapon of destructive karma returning on me for driving others, such as my guru, from their abodes. From now on, I will expel no one from their home. Well, here it even says driving your guru from their abodes. Yeah. In the Cultural Revolution in China, the society was in total chaos. And what Mao did is he got people to essentially be tattletales on each other and turn each other in. So you had children who were calling out their parents or even making things up because to be a good patriot of, the Mao's realm, you had to destroy all the people who were the rightists, and all the bourgeois people. So children would call out their parents, and their parents would then get arrested. Disciples would do this to their teachers, get their teachers arrested. It was like nobody could trust anybody else because the way Mao had done it with his propaganda was, this is how to be patriotic. Let's get rid of all the bourgeois people. Yeah, which meant everybody who didn't agree with Mao. Yeah, and that, how many people, first he had all these different movements, Mao did, as time went on, and millions of people died. Millions. And under Stalin, millions too. I think like 20 million people died under Stalin. Somebody can Google these figures, but it's human beings harm each other, and in the process of doing so, they think they're getting rid of enemies. What in fact they're doing is creating the causes for their own suffering in the future. Yeah. When you think of this, it's really pitiful, isn't it? And how can you hate people who are so involved in this kind of thing? Yeah. So, this is how people often ask me, and some of you may have come to this retreat to have a break and like, how do I deal with what's going on in the world right now? It's like so unbelievable. How do I even grok it? And people ask that all the time. And it's because it's so easy to be angry. It's so easy to hate and condemn. Yeah. But when we look at it, if we look at, what certain people in our own government are doing now, can we really, we may disagree with those people and their actions and their beliefs, but does that mean that they're horrible people and we're justified if we think, may they get hit by a truck? Yeah, or may they go to hell, or may they get arrested? Yeah. Like when we really think of people who are involved in these kinds of activities and who think that what they're doing is good, yeah, can we really hate people who are so confused and who are trying to be happy and think that harming others is going to make them happy? Yeah. I mean, Donnie thinks get rid of all the immigrants and then we're going to live happily ever after. Yeah. That's not even in a Grimm's fairy tale. It's just grim. Yeah. Isn't it? I mean, is that going to make everything in the world okay? No, not for those people and not for this country too, because we need the, immigrants. I mean, we're dependent on each other in this society. And so we may disagree with people, but that doesn't mean we have to hate them and call them names and sign them off. Yeah. Actually, those are people to have compassion for because their minds are so tormented and so confused. Yeah, do you think Hitler was a happy person? Yeah, he woke up every morning and, oh, I'm so happy. Everything's wonderful in this world. Yeah, if he woke up happy, he wouldn't have wanted to kill millions of people and invade other countries. Okay, so why do people do this stuff? It's because they're unhappy and they're confused about what are the causes of happiness. Yeah, so how do we protect our own mind from being angry at them? Remember that and think and have compassion for them. Yeah. All those people who had one political viewpoint before Donnie and then, changed their views on him completely. Who at the beginning called him names and said he's unfit. And now, yeah, they butter him up. And, I wonder in the end, what's, right now it's giving them power and a feeling of being right. But in the end, even in this life, in the end, what's it going to bring them, let alone in other lives? So, we can't hate them. Okay, verse 35. This one also applies to what's happening now. Yeah. When calamities such as frost and hailstorms occur, okay, such as floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, and earthquakes occur, It is the weapon of destructive karma returning on me. Yeah, for failing to properly observe my pledges and ethical precepts. From now on, I will keep my pledges and precepts pure. Okay, so when we are affected by natural disasters, our karma does not cause the natural disaster. That is a system of cause and effect, that functions environmentally, biologically, astronomically, whatever, all those different systems of cause and effect. But what does affect it is, are we influenced by those things? Yeah. So, a few years ago, those of us at the Abbey were influenced by a wildfire and we had to evacuate. Okay. How many people have been in earthquakes? Oh, really? So many. Yeah. You all grew up in California, huh? No, now they're having earthquakes in Oklahoma and Texas, and they just had one where in New Jersey. I mean, all sorts of weird places now. Yeah. I mean, the floods, what's happening with climate change and the floods in the South. They've had a lot of articles out now about the, what's the name? There's not the San Andreas Fault, that goes right through California, but there's another fault that goes up the West Coast. It starts with a C, the name of that fault. It's a few miles out in the ocean, but they're saying that one's long overdue, and when that one moves, it could be a really big one, and that bring many tsunamis and floods to the West Coast. We don't know, but could be. Yeah, Cascadia, that's the name. I know the first letter of these things. Indulgences and Cascadia, and yeah. Okay. So what's the reason for, being in these, caught in the middle of climate change? Yeah. How many people live close to sea level? Yeah, Singaporeans. Singapore, they get a little bit of rise. Yeah, in the because of the melting water, melting glaciers. Yeah, Singapore is going to be a bunch of random little splotches of earth in the middle of the ocean. Yeah. We don't know. Anyway, what's the reason for all of people being affected by these natural events? Yeah, there's been a number of volcanoes that have exploded recently. Yeah, failing to properly observe our pledges and ethical precepts. Okay, so we may have taken precepts, starting with the 5 lay precepts. Yeah, and we really mean them. Until, well, actually, especially with the precept to not take intoxicants, people, I'm going to think I'm just a weird Buddhist if I don't drink and drug when they do. So I should do that. It's for others' benefit, right? It doesn't create any negative karma. I'm doing it so they'll have a good impression of Buddhists. They won't think that we're all prudish. Oh, yeah. Okay. So, we are eager to take precepts But when it comes to keeping them, it's sometimes much more difficult, yeah, because our precepts really challenge us having the immediate pleasure that we often want. Okay, tomorrow, taking the 8 Mahayana precepts, okay, only solid food is at lunch. I'm gonna die, you know, for sure. I'm gonna die of starvation, you know. I just can't do it. Yeah. Anyway, yes, I took that precept, but it's now, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm hungry, and I've been hungry since 4 o'clock. And I'm the only one in the dining room, and there's the snack table. And I can take a little snack. Nobody will see. It's no problem. Yeah, Buddha, can I have a nice PB&J sandwich? Buddha says, yes, my dear. Okay, then, it's karma-free. Yeah. Taking the aspiring bodhicitta precepts, yeah, which, some of them are not so easy, like being truthful to your teacher, not deceiving your teacher. Well, yeah, I'm truthful. Yeah. Yeah. But when they asked me the details of a quarrel that I had with somebody, I just told them it was the other person's fault. Yeah. That they started an argument with me and I had nothing to do with it. Yeah. That's kind of the truth. Yeah. Anyway, I want my teacher to think good of me. I don't want them to know that I've broken precepts, then they might kick me out of this place. Actually, that's not such a bad idea. They kick me out, then I'm free. Yeah, I can eat, they kick me out, then all my precepts, my precepts only have to do with being here. So when I leave here, I can eat what I want, I can leave what I want. Right? Yeah. When you took the 5 precepts, they only apply when you come here. Yeah. When you go home, they don't apply anymore. So, yeah. So not keeping our precepts, or, we make mistakes. Yeah. Sometimes we don't keep them well. Then it's really important to confess and make amends, not rationalize, justify, and sweep it under the carpet. Yeah, but, to admit it, yeah, confess it, make amends, start over again. Yeah, and that way is how we grow. But if we don't, then this is what makes us find ourselves in the middle of these natural disasters. Okay, verse 36. It's another one that applies. Yeah. When I am greedy but bereft of material wealth. Yeah, anybody here have enough money? 2 people have enough money. Really? Really? You have enough money? Yeah. If you make a $500 donation for refugees, would you still have enough money? I wonder, you feel totally secure for your old age? That even if they take away Medicare and Medicaid, that you're going to have enough if you need long-term care? Anybody, do we? We could always use more money. Yeah? Even, you look at all these billionaires now who are having a say in the government. Why are they doing that? Because they need more money. They don't have enough. Yeah, everybody could use more. It's true, isn't it? If these people okay, there's one person who's the richest person in the world. Yeah, whenever you hear his name, you think of the richest person in the world. Have you ever read an article about him giving to charities and the charities he gives to? I haven't read an article about that. You would think that he would do that and that he would want people to know that he was generous. Okay. But you see, he needs more money. He doesn't have enough. So when I am greedy but bereft of material wealth, what I'm getting at is, for most people, except 3 people in this room, we consider that we think that we don't have enough money and that we're bereft of wealth, that we're almost on starvation level. We aren't. Yeah, but we think like we are. You have a retirement account, but what this, what that. Yeah, I can't give anything to any charities because I might retire in 500 years and I need my retirement money. Whatever it is. Okay. Or people that we might consider actually bereft of material wealth. When I lived in India, I really saw that among the Indians and also among the Tibetan refugees. Nowadays the Tibetan community is better off, but when I first went there, they were really quite poor. There was a couple of nuns who once invited me for tea at their place. And they lived on the side of the hill with His Holiness's residence on top, the side of the hill. And I went to their place. It was made of mud bricks, and the roof, to protect from monsoon rains, was ghee cans. Ghee is like a liquid oil, and it would come in big cans, and people would use the ghee and then take the can and cut the tin up, and then that's how you make your roof, with the tin from the ghee cans. They had a dirt floor, and they invited me for tea. They cooked on a kerosene stove. Yeah, those are, you could easily kill yourself if you live in a place with a kerosene stove that isn't properly vented. But, this is the advantage of living in a mud hut that has plenty of holes and the wind blows through. It was properly, but a kerosene stove. And, they invited me for tea. And then they brought out kopse, which are Tibetan, like fried dough, which is a real treat, And I thought, these are people who are really poor. But at the same time, they're so generous. Yeah, they gave me kapse, they made tea with milk. Yeah. So it's yeah. Yeah, being stingy is an interesting state because you have enough, but you don't feel like you have enough, and so you can't give. Yeah. And yeah, it's a painful state of mind. Okay, I should finish reading this verse. I got stuck in the first line. When I am greedy but bereft of material wealth, it is the weapon of destructive karma returning on me. For failing to give charity and to make offerings to the three jewels, from now on I will exert effort in giving an offering. Okay, so just like the previous verse, all these natural disasters comes from not keeping our precepts, our ethical conduct well. The resolution is now on, I'm going to keep it well. So for this one, being greedy but not having material wealth, yeah, it's because we haven't made offerings. Yeah, and this is one thing Nagarjuna, the very well-respected Indian sage, wrote in Precious Garland, yeah, that generosity is the cause of wealth and ethical conduct is the cause of an upper rebirth. But when we're stingy, we don't think generosity is the cause of wealth. We think it's the cause of poverty because our mind says, if I give, I won't have. Yeah. So it's not important how much we give, it's that we have an attitude that wants to give. So it doesn't mean that to create merit you have to give a lot, because somebody could give a ton of money, but it's so that they'll write up a nice article praising them in the newspaper, and they'll have a good reputation. So they gave a lot of money, but it's a rotten motivation. So it's not talking about that kind of charity, because that wasn't really generosity. But when you suffer economic problems, then to look back and, have I been generous, or do I have this incredible fear of giving? Okay, now I know as somebody who has suffered from that, yeah, and just think, oh, if I give it, I won't have it. Yeah. And then, I wound up really poor myself for a certain period of time. And at that time, when I was very poor, I was living at the nunnery in France, and we had to pay for the heat in our room in the winter, and the nuns lived in the horse stable, and it was pretty cold. And I didn't have enough money for heat, and I had to really sit and think, generosity is the cause of wealth, and being greedy but bereft of material wealth, was caused by stinginess, not being able to give, either make offerings to the three jewels or give to other people who need it, or just be generous even to friends. Yeah. And I had to have a good long meditation session with myself about this. And it's like, okay, why are you cold in the winter? Well, this is what you did, or rather what you didn't do. So if you want to change the result, you gotta change the cause. and stop the stinginess. So that got me moving in one direction. Could still use some improvement, but there's been a lot of improvement from that time. Yeah. But this way of thinking when you have problems, to think, well, what could I have done karmically that's bringing this? And then looking at, am I still doing that now? Because if I am, I'm just creating problems for myself in the future. Okay? So if you don't like the result, then, have that talk with yourself of, I've got to stop creating the cause. It's like when you have children, okay? And your kid complains, Johnny doesn't like me. He threw sand in my eyes. And you say, well, did you throw sand at him? Yeah. Who threw sand first? I did, because he was bugging me. But then he threw sand at me, and it got in my eyes, and I'm so unhappy. Yeah, what are you going to say to your kid? Yeah, throw more sand at him. Maybe he'll change his mind. That's like, Putin saying, drop more bombs on them. They'll change their mind. Yeah. But, that's not the cause of the happiness that we want. That's the cause of more problems. Yeah. And so, if we don't like the result, look at, what the karmic cause is that we're doing, and then think of what the opposite is. Yeah, it makes sense, If you're greedy, but you're stingy and you always think you're poor, yeah, well, what's the opposite of that? Try giving. Yeah. So I think I used to be, they talk about in the scriptures, some old lady at the time of the Buddha who was so stingy that to teach her how to give, the Buddha gave her a carrot and she had to practice giving from one hand to the next. Yeah, just to get used to giving. She had to give from the right hand gives to the left and the left gives to the right. Yeah. And then when you get really proficient, you give it to somebody else's right or left hand. And it's like, wow, I'm still alive. Yeah. And then you realize that giving helps other people, and it also makes you feel good. Yeah. Okay. Time's up. Okay, so let me mark our place. These verses are really quite pertinent, huh? You think? Okay. Okay.
May the spiritual teachers who lead me on the sacred path, and all spiritual friends who practice it, have long life. May I pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances. Grant such inspiration, I pray. May the lives of the venerable spiritual mentors be stable, and their virtuous actions spread in the 10 directions. May the light of wholesome's teachings dispelling the darkness of the beings in the 3 worlds always increase. Tam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami.
Due to this merit,
May we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forever.